Welcome to The Other Storyteller, the podcast sparking conversation in the arts and media world. I'm Maria, a filmmaker, entrepreneur, and curious artist from Colombia, living in the UK and Canada. The world is full of stories of cultures, places, and people, and I want to meet the most inspiring artists and storytellers from across cultures to uncover the stories that become art. Today is a very special day. It's our first ever episode, and I couldn't think of a better conversation to start than with a good friend of mine that is a very talented British creative director living in Canada. He's from Punjabi origin, and he has won plenty of awards in Canada for his advertising work, such as the Summit and Hermes Awards. And today we have him here. He is a visionary, futurist. He loves everything to do with the metaverse, AR, and VR. Please give a warm welcome to my friend Rav Lekh.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you so much.
You
I think you know more about me than I know about myself, I think, at this point.
well,
Nice
not so
pleasure.
much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, we are really excited to have you. And one of the key things that I wanted to start by understanding a little bit is what you're looking forward to at the moment. What are you really into? What are your passions?
I mean, it's this moment in time, it goes without saying, but there's a ton of AI. I think last week we just saw ChatGPT 4, Midjourney 5, and Unreal Engine 5.1 come out all in the same week. So everyone's mind's pretty blown right now. So a ton of AI, what it means to be, use AI as a creative, what it means for our industry. It's exciting to see what it means for people who aren't in our industry. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool, chatting to family and friends who are doing accounting or law and this and that, and seeing how they use it. But as well as you mentioned, extended reality and metaverse, what that means as well as a concept, and also as a channel that people are trying to use right now. So that's the stuff I'm pretty much big on right now.
That's actually so interesting. And I think that a lot of people in the media world are definitely thinking about how we can use AR, VR, the metaverse, and everything to just create a different interaction or a different experience for users. But we've talked in the last year or so about so many different applications. And I know that you've been very interested in like potentially starting something in that space. You're very curious. I know that you did speak at a recent event as well about the topic, but I wanted to hear a little bit more about where did you start your journey? Like, how did you even get into that world of AR, VR, metaverse? How did you enter that world? How did you even enter the world of art?
I come from a creative family. I'd say my mum did a fashion degree when I was a kid, when I was a baby. So I got to see her making, clothes out of crazy things, from a really young age. She made a dress out of car parts once. Sweet wrappers. I remember she had me and my brother and sister eating sweets till midnight because she needed the wrappers so she could iron it together, melt them together to create like a really flowy dress. So that my dad uh, did the designs on windows, the LED stained glass designs on windows. So I got to see that. And just everyone, I guess everyone in my family has been pretty creative and very supportive of me doing creative things. But if I distill it even further, we just watched a ton of movies when we were kids. It was movie night every Friday, pirate DVD from from the pub, someone selling DVDs out of a suitcase, buy one, watch a movie. And I think at some point in my life I was just like, I need to know how the hell they made this. And from that point, I had a decision. It was either computer science or computer graphics. Um, and I thought, fuck it, let's go for sorry if this is not meant to swear on this, but I thought, fuck it, let's go for computer graphics. Let's find out how they made this. That's when the advent of like really strong CGI came out
Yeah.
into movies. And I honestly, I remember, and it's not a great film, but I remember I was watching Transformers because I used to watch it as a kid, and I just could not understand how they made it look so real. So that obsession of trying to figure it out, went to Kingston in London, did 3D animation, figured it out, got obsessed with the media, and then ended up working in, advertising, because it's an easier step than film, right?
Yeah,
It's that, right? So
that's so
and
interesting.
yeah,
That's so interesting. I don't think that a lot of people actually in this space have families that are all artists. As you might know, obviously, we are from a time where there's been a boom, where there's a lot more jobs, where there's so many companies that do CGI, and then they have like crazy amounts of teams to do absolutely everything, the sound effects and everything. That's actually, I imagine, like such a blessed experience to have as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a fun environment. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be supported to do it. I think a lot of people, you know, a lot of Indians will go into business and accounting and finance and things like this that are
Mhm.
obviously more stable, but they make a lot of sense as well. The
Yeah.
stereotype's kind of true. So I was lucky that my mum was like, just do what you love, and you'll figure out how to make money along the way. So it worked out.
That is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that first memory that you have of a film or something that you saw that you were like, this is it. I am going to become an artist. I need to do this. You were talking a little bit about Transformers, but was that first like movie that you were like, I need to do this? Or was there anything else that you think sparked that first decision?
It's pretty abstract, but me and my brother used to watch a lot of things together, a lot of
Hmm.
documentaries, and I don't know how connected this is, but we used to watch a lot of Egyptian documentaries as well, about ancient Egypt
Yeah.
and history around the world, and we learned about the pyramids, and we just sit at home watching it, and we were super young, and I vaguely remember the concept of these pharaohs building these pyramids as a thing to be remembered by,
Hmm.
horrific kind of ways they built it. So I'm not glorifying that, but they are amazing structures. There's no doubt about it, right? We're still talking about it today. So I think that concept of leaving something behind to be remembered by really stuck in my brain for some reason when I was a young kid. And I think I just naturally latched onto all the film I was watching, and then realizing like these, my dad making me watch old films or watching new films with my mom. I was like, it didn't matter when they came out. They were constants, right? That you're
Yeah.
immortalized in video. So I don't remember what film it was, but that concept of being remembered kind of made me wanna do it.
That's so interesting. I think that my first approach to just wanting to make film and just being super passionate, and I obviously love this. It's kind of like my dream still somewhere in my heart. Um, just like working for Nat Geo or like History Channel, like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was Sundays with my dad, just like laying down, watching like history and stuff, and just thinking that same thing. It's like wanting to be remembered, wanting to do something that outlasts, something that collaborates to like the creation of culture or something. That's so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, stories, right? Everything's a story. Even what
Hmm.
we do now, advertising, it's all storytelling. The Bible, look at that. That's a story that
Yeah,
was one of the greatest stories ever told, they say, because look how powerful it is. So yeah, I just wanted to tell stories, and then ended up naturally falling into advertising. Still trying to get into film, but naturally just fell into advertising, I think. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think that it's we share that. We worked together for what, 5 years, four
Yeah.
years?
Yeah,
Can't even
5 years.
remember. But definitely some of the best experiments were done on set. We
Yeah.
just, yeah, we rolled with a lot of the punches, and it was like a really interesting creative environment for us as well. I think we were given a lot of creative freedom and space
Mm.
for exploration, and you championed that to the next level. Like you just made sure you convinced clients that this was the way forward. And
Mm.
I just remember so many times I was like, there's no way they're gonna buy it. Rav, like, please, like, get a safe idea. And you were just like, no, we have to do this. I
Yeah.
really, really appreciate that.
A big part of it is just bullshit, right? We just sell. And I know that sounds really bad, like we just made it up, but no, there is a lot of thought that goes behind it, but you just got to kind of bullshit your way through it. As that's as genuine as I can say it, and as nice as I can say it. You know, some of the stuff we would say in a presentation, I had no idea I was saying those words till they came out of my mouth, and I'd purposefully not rehearse my presentations, and I still don't. I do not rehearse my presentations. I make them, I put them away, and then I open them 5 minutes before the presentation, because if I've rehearsed it, it's fake. If I can say it on the fly, I feel it. You know what I mean? It should just be felt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love trying, and we were both young, had, like you said, a lot of freedom. So why not? We had no one saying don't do this
I
kind of thing.
know that's actually, and that's so powerful and so lucky to have that opportunity, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, advertising, yes, is a world that has a lot of money that can be invested into these, and it's a great place to try a lot of things that you're not going to get to try in film because it's so expensive to run a set. But at the same time, a lot of the agencies might have someone that just kind of has all the shots and says everything and limits what has to be done or what who can do it, right? Because at the end of the day, we just arrived and we had so many different freedoms. I even remember you making me help direct something in French, and I just was like, my first
Oh
week
yeah.
at Blink. That was a really interesting
I
experience,
forgot
but
about
it
that. Yeah.
worked out. And we actually, that's one of the ones that we got awards for back in the day.
You took my Epson.
Yeah, Epson.
Oh man, I got chastised for that actually in the beginning. Everyone was like, well, "This has gone really downhill. You're over budget. It's not looking too great." And then next thing you know, they ended up ordering like three more videos, and we won some awards for it. So it it did rock me. That did actually rock me a little. It knocked my confidence a little bit, where I was like, "Okay, maybe I won't direct the next one." But then I feel like you got to go through those things, right? You got to have moments of
Definitely.
failure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good time.
That's so funny. So tell me a little bit about, like, what do you bring from your culture? You were talking about earlier, like, you know, so many of the kids from your culture end up going into banking, going into tech, into other different areas. But I think that we all bring a little bit of who we are, the work ethic that we are taught, into our work. What do you think you've brought into advertising, into media, from your culture and from the way that you were raised?
So I'm a child of two cultures, of England, well, Britain and India, right? So it's and I'm living in Canada. So, sadly, I don't think I bring a lot from my Indian culture into my advertising work. And that's not because I don't want to. I just don't think there's a lot of opportunity to do that just yet.
Mhm.
Right. I think that's a constant window I'm trying to find. Like I'm looking for it. And you know me, if someone gives me like and just a little gap of opportunity, I'll take it. I'll take the whole thing. So I'm still looking for that and I'm trying to leak it in there. But
Mhm.
I think I bring a lot of the British culture back into the advertising here in
Yeah.
terms of, that bit more, maybe it's a bit more sarcastic or a bit more thoughtful. I find it quite witty and a bit more
Yeah.
interesting. In terms of the culture of being, Indian, we're just, again, it's a stereotype, but it's true. We're just hard workers. So I think I bring that culture, that hardworking culture of just nonstop, like just wanting to be the hardest working person in the room. Like I get a bit of a thrive off that, and
Yeah.
I know it's not a good thing. I'm probably a workaholic, but it does it gives me an edge over everybody else, right? I'm not Mike Tyson, who's up at 3 in the morning running and then dominating the sport, but at least I can do the best I can do, which is learn constantly and then just work as hard as I can.
Okay, Ralph. So I wanted to dig a little bit more into just representation and your culture. So one thing that I know that we didn't see that much at the agency. I remember when we would have casting calls and we're getting the requisitions from the clients, and we did have a lot of, can we include maybe some like females, some males? Can we include actors
Mm.
of Black origin, or sometimes Hispanic, sometimes it would be Asian origin. And although India is in Asia, which a lot of people don't consider it Asia for some reason, but I don't think we ever got asked to bring in Indian talent, which I, thinking back, I didn't even think about, hey, why are we not bringing in Indian talent, which is a huge community in Vancouver, huge community in Canada,
Yeah.
and I could even say like in the UK, absolutely massive.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel, or is that something that, do you consciously process the fact that you're not seeing that type of representation?
I think I only really started to realize it just before Black Lives Matter really kicked off. And even in England, growing up and coming across casual racism, you didn't really care. Like you just thought it's casual racism, right? You thought it was normal. Everyone's a little bit racist sometimes, and that's okay. And then growing up, getting older, you realize it's not okay. What that teacher said to me, or how that teacher treated my siblings, or how that person in the bank was acting for no reason, like that's actually not okay. It's actually racist. It's terrible. I'm not saying England's a racist country, but there's definitely places you can and can't go, depending on what culture you are. There's certain pubs you won't walk into, and there's
Yeah.
certain pubs you would. In advertising, I don't think I really realized. I think I was just so enamored by what I had to do that I didn't realize the best thing that we wanted. So when I worked at certain clients, it would always, they'd want some Asian, of Chinese descent, probably, because
Mhm.
that's the next closest thing to white. If we're looking at a spectrum, right, it's not too distinct from the shade of white, and it's not too brown or black. Like Asian's a sweet spot. And then black people was definitely an ask, because that was the other end of the spectrum for clients. And it's like, well, we've got a black person, we're good. We
And
we
also a lot
actually,
of things were happening at the time, just
yeah,
huge, huge movements that I am so grateful that all of these conversations have started. Really incredibly sad that everything had to come from so much pain and so much
yeah.
turmoil, but those conversations are so important, right?
I mean, it's confusing though right now. Like, I want to see more brown people on screens, and
Yeah.
that's why I write my own media now and trying to come up with my own scripts. I want to see it. I do want representation, and I'm not saying it in an aggressive way, like, oh, I feel underrepresented, I need it now. But I genuinely want people to just look at it and go, "Oh, you know what, that feels okay. That feels good." But the interesting conversation in agencies is, if everybody's colored now, right? Everyone's like, the question is, if I've got, like, let's say I need 10 actors, yeah, how many of them need to be ethnic? That's the question. But I've asked people, like, how much is too much, and why can't everybody just be colored? Why does it have
Mhm.
to be 80% is too much? Let's slow down now. This is getting uncomfortable for certain people. I find that really interesting.
It is, one of the things that I also think about is there is always a request that on camera there's people of ethnic backgrounds, but how about behind camera? Is it because we're not shown that we don't count? I think that that is one of the key things that I've been questioning myself a little bit, because at the end of the day, there's plenty of camera people that are from ethnic backgrounds as well. A lot of people that maybe don't have as many connections from family or friends, or different ways, but we all know well, or for those who don't know as well, the media industry moves a lot in, I know this person and I get jobs from this person that I have worked with, just because they know your work ethic. But it's really difficult to enter when you are from the outside. So if you moved from another country, um, how do you make those connections, right? And that happens to a lot of people
Well,
of
you've done a
ethnic
pretty good job.
backgrounds.
You did it pretty well, right? You joined guilds or groups and things. But let me ask you, do you identify as colored?
Being an immigrant, a lot of the time, you are treated as though, because of your accent or your capacity to speak English identically to everyone else, are you capable of doing the job, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
there's different parts of
I guess my whole
that
question
distribution.
came from like black, BIPOC, black indigenous
Uh-huh.
people of color. Like
Yeah.
I support it. I don't like being segmented into that personally.
Mhm.
Like I support it if it can get you an interview, but I would love to like I want the job on my skill alone. Like just on my skill. Like, even if it's a blind interview where you never see my face or anything or my name and you just get me on skill alone, brilliant. But I guess why I asked that is because would you fall into BIPOC just because you look white? I don't know. Maybe you
Yeah.
wouldn't. And you're saying support people cultured behind the screen. Maybe you would miss out on that because you are skin tone. You're not like me.
I think that it is a really difficult conversation. And at the end of the day, diversity doesn't just even start or end with race. It also includes gender, it
And
also includes where you come from, how you were brought up. Um, but at the end of the day, I think that what I would like to focus on is that experience, that enriching experience of having people from different backgrounds coming in and having those conversations. And I know that for yourself, you come from Derby in England, which is
mm,
definitely, like, I would say, like a majority white town. But at the same time, it's like you live in England. England has a huge, say, in the Midlands, Jamaican population or people from the Caribbean, which I had no idea about. You have huge Pakistani, huge Indian communities. I haven't seen so many like Asians from like China or Korea in this area, or it might just be the city I live in. But there's a lot of that. There's culture and there's so much diversity. But how did you feel like growing in a town that it's majority white, but where there's still a huge representation of different cultures? Do you think that that impacted who you were, how you saw yourself? Did that impact even like just wanting to be an artist? Like, it's so different. Like, how did you fit into that? Did you ever feel like you had to become part of what everyone else from your um, culture was doing at the time, for example?
no, I just felt I lived everything, right? My mum championed diversity like she read the Bible. She read she went to the Gurdwara as well, the Sikh temple. She went to the Hindu temple. She went to gospel. She had friends that were Jehovah's Witnesses. And my point is, she eclectically consumed everything and was open to everything and made us do it as well and said, choose what you want to do now. So I was okay with the school we went to. You go in England, you go primary school and secondary school. Your first school when you're a child and then your secondary school when you're a teenager before college. So my primary school, we were the only brown family in the entire school, right? My siblings and my cousins before me, and then they're a bit older than me. So then it was just in my year, it was just me and one other brown kid. That was it. And then I moved to my secondary school, and, you know, I'd say there wasn't a lot of white people. So it was a real shock, a culture shock to me to see those two different worlds. But I guess I got to see them, which was cool. I got to see the difference. I really found my best friends, which I keep today, in that secondary school, and I found what it meant to, like, they are my best friends are, my closest friends are Indian. They're Punjabi as well. So I guess I got to find out what it means to have shared values. I guess shared culture, you can connect on a
Hmm.
different level. And it has impacted my work. Indian culture is quite very colorful. It's a lot of food, it's a lot of color, the fashion's amazing, the jewelry's incredible, the events are long and meant to be fun, and I think that colorful joyness has kind of seeped its way into my work for sure. I don't do depressing things. I try not to. So I think it's had its impact. Moving to London changed my life for the fact that I then is when I really became a cultured person. And you are a very cultured person because you've moved around the world, you've seen people, you've met people. But I moving to London meant I got to meet people from different like races, different like countries, different like sexual orientation. Like I got to meet everybody I could and talk to them as a bartender. So I
Hmm.
was like, it was happy days. That's when I really learned how to become cultured and I guess borrow things from everyone's culture to kind of make a
Yeah.
colorful piece of art, right?
And definitely London has to be like the most out there city for like everything you can ever see. Like you will see people wearing all kinds of different clothes, all kinds
Yeah.
of like honestly, like I've never met people from so many countries. As when I
Mm.
go to London, every time you step into London, like you could find anyone from any country. I would not be surprised. Which honestly from I am Colombian, and you do have like a lot of white, indigenous, and black, and then mestizos or mulattoes, which are like just people that have mixed origin. But I remember we had um, three Asian girls and one Asian boy in our school, and that was the only Asian people I saw in my entire life
In Colombia?
until I went on trips.
In Colombia?
No, they were actually Chinese, and they had moved with their family, but I think I never met someone that was of Indian origin, for example. I think until, well, maybe in my travels at some point, but I can't recall until I moved to Canada when I was already 18 years old, which is, you would actually think it's a very diverse place, but it's actually like not so diverse where I come from.
Hey, until I left home, I never even heard of pho. Like pho, I never even
Oh,
heard of it. Never even heard of ramen. I had no idea what that was. Ate sushi maybe once, moved to London, started experiencing it, moved to Vancouver. I was like, what the hell is this? Never even heard of this thing. And then I was eating that thing every single week. I was eating pho
yeah,
every single week. And it's just crazy how like this is what I mean. Like you grow into your own culture and you experience it. And I'm so glad I did in Derby. I got to see like Indian people and learn about the culture from my friends. Every family is different. They cook different food, they do different things on weddings, but it helps you establish a good foundation, but you got to get out of your culture. You got to go find out what everybody else is doing and then use that to like kind of bolster your own culture. You can't,
definitely.
it's too much of a closed box just to think I'm Indian, I'm going to look at Indian stuff and just do Indian things. It would never work.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of artists that do very culturally specific
Yeah.
art, which I find freaking amazing and so interesting. But I also know that it's not that they don't look at something else, but they choose to do things of a specific culture more
Yeah,
so, maybe.
I think no, that's good, but they are definitely looking at other things,
For
right?
sure. You have to.
Definitely to get inspired even more.
Absolutely.
Or even just to see what not to do. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter, but you got to look outside of it. I look at Bollywood, I think Bollywood could be so much better compared, it's doing some good stuff, but how could you make, when you talk about good Indian films, Indian British films, everyone just says bend it like Beckham. That's the only thing that comes up. I don't know if you've seen that film, being,
No, I
well,
haven't.
right. Well, go watch it now that you're in
I
England.
will.
But that's the one film that everyone comes up with. So I'd love to see more of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And we actually have talked a little bit about an animation script that you have been working on. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your plot line, but it's basically immigrants in the streets of London, right? And you know, actually, I don't know that I've seen so much of that theme, funny enough, in a city like London that I was just mentioning. Almost everyone is an immigrant. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
colorful. So why are you so interested in doing that, and why are you the person to write that script? Why does it matter to you?
I started reading Race and Class in the Ruins of an Empire by Akala, who is a really smart guy from the UK and a rapper as well, right? And his book taught me a lot about the Windrush generation, which is why England is built on immigration after the fall of the empire. They invited everybody, said, "Hey, come over. We'll give you housing, we'll give you money. You can help build our roads and infrastructure." Um, and that's how I learned about how my family and all my friends' families like came to England. Um, and then he started talking about little things like they don't teach you about the British Empire or anything in school. They don't. They teach you about Henry VIII. Have you heard of Henry VIII, Marie?
Yes, but I had no idea that you guys were not taught anything about the British Empire.
Nothing real. But you've heard of Henry VIII.
Yeah, loosely. I'm not a pro
But you've
in
heard of
any
him.
British royalty anything. There's so many kings and queens.
The guy who had like 8 wives, right?
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
teach you about that, and that isn't. It might be fun, but it's actually quite misogynistic ruler who didn't do a lot of good things other than create the Church of England. So he could divorce his wife legally.
Yeah.
So those aren't values that want to be taught. And I basically found like there's a lot of misinformation with like colored people or immigrants in the UK. And like you said, there's not a lot of representation of immigrants. So I kind of just wanted to see it. I really wanted to see it, and I didn't want to wait for another Bend It Like Beckham to come out every 20 years. I just wanted to start making it myself and align with people who can, feel like they get to see it as well, kind of stuff. The other guys on the project are white Canadians, you know?
Yeah.
So, one could argue what right do they have to talk about these things? And I could argue, it does not matter. Like I'm trying to be as cultured as possible and as inclusive as possible. I don't care if they're white. Like these guys are great storytellers, and I want to, use their skill. They're inspired by immigrant stories too. So why not
Absolutely.
why not tell that story? Just because
Hmm.
they're white would be a terrible thing to miss out on. So it's like Top Boy meets Blade Runner and a lot of representation. But what I'm really excited about is, as well as seeing Indians, and I mean Punjabi Indians, because we don't have that right now in TV. We see more darker skinned or super light skinned. Like we don't see real Punjabi Indians. It's female representation. I don't think female representation is done that well in a lot of film and TV right now. I look
Yeah.
at Ocean's 8 was a terrible film to represent women, and I've been brought up by women, so I really wanted to kind of show that. That's really important for me.
That is
Yeah.
that is a huge topic, and realistically also when people talk about diversity in certain areas, especially like film, I feel like women are so underrepresented. It's incredible. And it's sometimes on screen there's a little bit more representation, but even on set, it can be difficult. It can be difficult.
Yeah, I want to film, I want media that like a woman can just like a woman or person of color. And I don't just mean a person of color, I mean like everything, like Indian, Muslim, people from Mongolia or Ukraine or Polish, everybody. It's such a melting pot in England. I want them to just watch it and just be like, I feel this. And it needs to be told. And everyone I've spoken to so far who's supported the project and it's going really well, has said this just needs to be made. That's their answer. It just
Yeah,
needs to be made.
absolutely. And I also think and know the person that you're working with. And I just know that this is a person that's so respectful and admiring of other cultures. And I think that there is a difference between being exploitative of a foreign culture and a foreign story, and being a person that is an ally and a person that wants to bring forward those stories and that wants to help make them happen. Um, so I definitely agree with you. I find that it's an interesting conversation to have at times, and it can be difficult. Even we were talking before about me being considered white sometimes. Why am I even having this conversation about diversity? But at the end of the day, it's your intention and what your purpose is that really matters.
Yeah, I mean, let's shout them out. There's Adam McKay
Yeah.
and Jonathan Norton or John Boy, and those guys, they're great guys to work with, and we've been doing this for about 4 years now. So we're trying to get it out. And what I like about the show is it's not just immigrants for the sake of immigration. It's set in the future a little bit, in a grounded future. That's why I said Blade Runner is they're climate refugees.
We wanted to talk a little bit about race swapping. What are your thoughts on this conversation that is currently happening in the space of media?
So I love it. Me and my wife will debate constantly. I play devil's advocate, so even if I agree with what she's saying, I'll say the opposite thing just to have a good conversation. But right now, you got Mindy Kaling, who did the new Velma series, and she's getting pretty gaslighted. I mean, there's a few things I would say are wrong with the show. She's getting told it's over sexualized a child's character, but she's race swapped Velma to be brown, right? And people are asking if that's appropriate or not. And other conversations which are more grounded is like the new 007. Everybody wants it to be Idris Elba. They've wanted it for years. I want Idris Elba to be 007 because he's a cool guy. But people, housemates or friends in the past have said, but Rav not being racist, but 007's white. He should always be white. And I was like, but what? How would it make you feel if he's black? Like, would it really change it? He's a cool agent at the end of the day. That's it. He's the best, most suave agent you're gonna find. But then my wife's, argument is make your own character. Like make a new character for that ethnic person and make it so great. It doesn't matter that, you don't need to take over 007. You just made this amazing new character for this person. And I don't disagree with her. I don't disagree with either side. I think 007 could be ethnic, or they could make a 008 who's just amazingly sick, you know?
Yeah, but there's also, I think, again, devil's advocate. There's also the fact that as kids, we grow up seeing these characters, and there is a part of us that wants to be like them.
Mm,
And
mm,
to be completely honest, I have that. I'm not with 007, but I have that with Hermione from Harry
sure.
Potter. And
Yeah.
I have like a big obsession. But I mean, there's a part of me that's like, I will just never sound like her. I will never be like her in so many things. And I actually think my personality is quite similar to hers. Which is like why, if they were to remake it, couldn't she be Colombian? Like I would be the happiest person. My inner child would just like pop or
Do you
something. Like I don't
feel,
know.
I mean, do you feel, Disney does a lot of Latino representation, I'd say. You
More
got
recently.
Encanto,
More
uh,
recently, yeah.
yeah, more recently for sure.
More
But you
recently,
got
yeah. And I'm
Encanto.
so grateful for it.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel that though? I mean, Encanto is not Colombian.
It is Colombian,
It is
100%.
Colombian? Oh,
100%. So actually, Encanto is based on 100 years of solitude, and it's not the same story, but a lot of the things that are written are like the yellow butterflies are a huge
mm.
topic in 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And if anyone hasn't heard about it, it's basically Colombia's biggest piece of literature. It's won the Nobel Prize in the past.
What's it
So
called? 100 Years of Solitude.
yeah,
Check it
it's
out.
one of my favorite books. Quite
Well,
long
apologies. I
and
did not
descriptive.
know it was Colombian. I
No
actually
worries.
didn't. But all right, so backtrack. Forget Encanto was made.
Yeah.
Coco. Remember Coco?
Yes, I actually didn't watch it.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm
I
just wondering,
know.
like, would you even feel, would you feel glad about that? I think it's Mexican, I believe.
Yeah.
But would you? You're not Mexican. You're Colombian. You know, fair enough. You share a language of forms, but would that make you feel represented? Seeing a Mexican character, would it make you feel somewhat represented, or not at all?
I think that it does. I think that there's a lot of cultures, even beyond Colombian, Mexican, and Peruvian, that we tend to have a lot of the representation, a little bit Brazil as well, but a lot of countries are forgotten in the media and are forgotten. They're just like generally like smaller countries, potentially smaller populations, but like, damn, like I wonder when was the last time that a character was Uruguayan or Paraguayan or I don't know, like I think that those little things as a kid, they make you feel like you're not cool, like you're not born in the right country. That's how I felt being little. Just like, oh, I'm never gonna be a star because I will never be able to get rid of my accent. I was not from the right culture. And obviously, as you grow up, you realize that those are limiting beliefs that you need to deconstruct and move past because there is a space for you. But that's also a space you have to build for yourself and for others.
I think that's the point. Is like when you do grow up, you do think, you know, what, it's normal. It's like just stop complaining, get on with the system, and you know, be a part of it. And now it's like, you know what, start building things where you can be proud of and people can come there. Yeah,
Hmm.
I love Miss Marvel. I thought it was a great series, just for the sake it was, you know, as well brown people, right?
Hmm.
But what I'm cognizant of is I don't think they'll make an Indian Punjabi one now because they filled their quota of brown representation, right? It was
Exactly.
they needed to do it, and I think, you know, they needed to do it because Islamophobia in the US is huge, right? Islamophobia across the world is huge, so they needed to do it. But what I know they won't do an Indian Punjabi Indian one either, you know, now because they
Mhm.
won't for everybody else, brown people are brown people. You know, it's not like, and for a lot of people, Latino people are Latino people. People think Spanish, Mexican, Portuguese, Brazilian, maybe. They're not thinking, you know, people from Argentina or Uruguay or Guatemala or
Mhm.
anywhere, you know. So that's why I was interested if you felt like Coco, but you haven't seen it. You know, if that
Yeah.
was like, if you felt the same way or not.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. And also, I think there's like, I think, I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but when I see other Latin American cultures highlighted, I definitely feel so happy because there's something closer and more similar to me. I think that one of the key reasons that for me it's very important that there's a representation of Latin America is sorry, of Colombia specifically, is that we have had so much representation of narco related topics, and I just can't hear it once more. I need a different narrative.
Mm,
And I don't know if it's the same for you. And obviously, like Indians from Punjabi origin are quite different in some
yeah,
aspects,
yeah.
and I think probably not as represented.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
different, very underrepresented. Like you bend it like Beckham is the thing I keep hearing about, and Pride and Prejudice, or Bride and Prejudice, Bride and Prejudice.
Pride and
Those,
Prejudice.
those are the two. No, but there's one called Bride and Prejudice. Have you seen that? It's an Indian English.
Pride and Prejudice? No.
Yeah. So that's a an Indian version of it, an Indian English version. It's actually really funny. But those are the two movies that everybody knows. I want to see more. I want to see like some real stuff. Riz Ahmed's doing some really cool stuff, you know, like some gritty, really like truthful, dramatic things. And I love that. But I want to see more. I want to see more. And I'm not feeling it right now. I'm not feeling that represented. But I'm not going to wait. I'm going to just do it myself.
Let me ask you this next question,
Yeah.
which is an interesting space where you've been a little bit playing with, and where
Okay.
a lot of what's going to happen is to be written, right? So, what do you think is going to be the role of AR, VR, metaverse in that diversion, inclusion, representation? Do you think that there's something else that it can offer us?
Tricky. I know, you know, we've spoken about this before, but I don't know. I don't know how I mean, it's you're allowed to represent yourself in your truest form. If whatever you want to be, you can be, and I think that's amazing. You know, you can be orange or blue skinned, you could be an alien or a robot, and I think that's really fun. It's like gaming, really, and
Hmm.
there's a reason why gaming is so popular. So I love that aspect. I want to see more. You know, Dove released a campaign, and rightly so, where they had more heavier set avatars and
Hmm.
things. Because you know, you look at the avatars, they're slim, they're bipedal,
Hmm.
they walk, they are, you know, normal hair and this and that, but Dove had heavier set people or even disabled people, and I think that was awesome. I want to see more of that kind of
Hmm.
representation in metaverse platforms or digital platforms where, you know, I've got friends that are disabled or wheelchair bound or, you know, or kind of have different experiences of life. And I want, if I could see those people, like I would be interested how they would feel. Maybe they want a wheelchair with rockets on the back, but that sounds so dope. Could you make it so cool that I want a wheelchair with rockets on the back as well? You know, rather than like, hey, you know, I know you've been in wheelchair your whole life, but now you get to a chance to digitally be like me. I want a chance to digitally be like you because you know what, that looks fucking cool. Like, and how would they feel like if I
Hmm.
wanted to do that? They would feel amazing. I'd love that moment, you
I
know?
think
So
that's so interesting. Yeah.
we're still getting there. Right now, it's in a gaming phase, but we're still getting there, I think, in terms of like an actual platform. You still got another 5 years before we're somewhere really crazy.
I think the one thing that I question
Yeah.
and explore and try to think about from different angles because I don't have the answers is I think that there's an opportunity for representation, but I wonder whether if you're making an ad where you have a person in a wheelchair, it's probably easier to get an avatar than to get a person in a wheelchair into a studio and accommodate for them. And I think that those are the conversations we also have to have regarding the metaverse and AR, VR. And obviously, there's the whole talk about talent being replaced. But the reality is, like if you could have like backup dancers, I think Ready Player Me was showing about how you can create backup dancers. Are you not going to get now the backup dancers that have actually been underrepresented? So then you're just going to go pay a platform to create an avatar, and then people that have the skill are not getting actually casted to be on that video. So maybe the one black person that could be represented now that a lot of things have advanced, or the people from Indian descent, or the people, I don't know, even from Mongolia, whatever.
Yeah.
Like they might not ever get that chance now that we're even starting to have this conversation. So I guess that's,
I think that's level playing field though. You know, if I needed 5 white people and it was easier for me, you know what it's like. Sometimes we got a 10 grand idea with a $200 budget, you know?
yeah.
So if I needed 5 white people and I could do it with AI art, you know, making the posters rather than a casting call, regardless of their culture, my budget dictates I have to use that tool. I have to get it out. So I don't, I get what you're saying. You know, they're gonna people might miss their chances now with digitized experiences or representation, but like it's coming for everybody.
Yeah,
And
it's coming for everyone.
I don't think it will ever die out. You know, TikTok does a great, you know, for all the, you know, I find everything a bit too woke, and I'm not trying to get you cancelled, Maria, but you know, a certain level of wokeness is a good thing. You know, I don't think it will ever get to that point where people are put back into boxes and forgotten about. You know, because people will just now they'll speak up about it and they'll share their message, and you know, it's good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that that's interesting. Anyways, it's I think a continuous exploration and definitely not something with a straight up answer, to be
Yeah,
honest.
we're still trying to figure out what the metaverse is. You
No.
know.
And it's anyways, you know what? As things progress, as long as we keep in mind all of these conversations, we're able to move forward in the right direction intentionally.
Yeah, I love the opportunity to educate in the metaverse. You know,
Hmm.
I don't have to build a museum. I can just make a digital one and people can go see it for free, you know, around the
Hmm.
world and learn about themselves, their own history or somebody else's. I think that's awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy.
So I am cognizant of your time. So I just want to end with a few quick questions. Feel free if you want to just explore one a little bit more, it's fine. What advice would you give to your younger self to pursue a career in media or film or advertising?
I think I would try not to buy into self-sabotage. I think self-sabotage is a real thing. I think there's a point where you get really scared. Like you might get an opportunity, and for as excited as you are, you get a little bit scared and a little bit of doubt creeps in, and you might not take it. You might kind of convince yourself of an excuse like, oh, I'm too busy, or I missed a deadline because I wasn't feeling well. And I would try to like be a bit more fearless, like just figure out how it goes, and do that. Other than that, I have no regrets. Like, don't if I'm talking to someone else, just don't regret anything. Just keep doing it. You've made your decisions. You just got to be happy with them and figure out how it goes. If I didn't come to Vancouver, and take the first job I was offered, which was where we worked, I wouldn't have met yourself, or I wouldn't have met Adam, who now is a lifelong friend who I've been writing with for 5 years. Like, everything happens for a reason. Take that
Yeah.
into heart, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you're saying about self-sabotage is like so big in so many industries. I'm not going to say it's specific to ours, but we come from an industry that's very intangible, that
Yeah.
your skill is not like I can do this math, this equation. It's like I'm talented and you have to trust me, or you have to like what I have done, or you have to trust that with what I have done I'm able to do what you want me to do sometimes. So definitely
Yeah,
a
it's
tough
so hard.
industry.
Yeah, but self-sabotage in everyone's so real right now, I think.
So
Just
real, yeah.
recognizing it helps. I think if anyone who's watching this, be it 10 or a million people, just think about a moment that you think you might self-sabotage yourself, reflect on it, and chances are you won't do it again, which is a great thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, that's great advice. So, if you could choose a person to collaborate with on a film, who would it be? In what perspectives do you expect that person to contribute to the medium or the culture or the piece that you're making?
It's difficult because you and I are both movie heads, like, and pretty much all the friends that we've shared are huge on movies. But I mean, I just love Wes Anderson stuff. Like,
Oh yeah.
I just can't get over it. I'm trying to get my wife into it to watch everything, but I just, man, I don't know what. I know he has a certain genre in a sense.
Hmm.
He's not doing Blade Runner. But
Yeah,
if I said to you, Wes Anderson's doing a take on Blade Runner or Batman, I know, as confused as you might look, you'd be like, what the hell? I need to go watch this. Like, what is that? You'd be so
100%.
intrigued. So if Wes Anderson, I know he did Darjeeling Limited, and he has a lot of, he has that one Indian actor who's always in his movies, the Sikh guy. Do you remember there's always a Sikh guy with a turban
Oh
in
yeah, 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 yeah. What's his
in
name?
like he's a famous model as well, but
Something
he's
Murphy? Something Murphy? No,
mate. There's
maybe.
an Indian guy with a beard and a turban. He's
Oh
in
no, I
Life
know which
Aquatic.
one. Yeah, I
He's
know, I
in
know.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I will have to link it because I forgot his name too.
But like, so I know Wes Anderson's probably open to it, but man, if I could work with him on something like Bollywood-esque or even English-esque, I think it'd be amazing. It'd blow my mind.
Absolutely. And talking about diversity and just stories, one of the things that I think was just so interesting, I thought that Fantastic Mr. Fox was a very subtle hint at humanity. To me, that's just like, I just love it. I love how movies like that or books like Mouse just explore how we treat each other as humans, different species. really, but different races, and it's just shown through different species. I think it's a very interesting allegory.
Oh, I love it. I watched it yesterday, actually, again.
Really.
So, see what I mean? Everything happens for a reason, you know. If it sounds like coincidence, it isn't. It means you're on the right track.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, next one. If you had to choose a country to watch films from it for a whole entire month, what's the country and why?
I have to go Korean, man. I just have to go Korean. Like the, you know, and we have another shared friend, Andy, you know, but Squid
Yeah.
Games was not the pinnacle of Korean media, and it's such a shame. Like it pisses him off because he, you know, fears that no one's really understanding how great cinema is in Korea.
Mhm.
Like just like their chicken, they make amazing films, you know. I would
Yeah.
watch as much Korean media as I could. My brother got me into it actually, and I've seen some like the stories are incredible, the acting's insane, you know, the
Just so
cinematography is
raw.
unreal.
Like
Yeah.
raw and subtle, and like that tension building is just like
Is Old Boy Korean or is that Japanese?
Korean as far as I know.
Right. Yeah.
Korean.
I hope
Yeah.
so. But man, like even that, as crazy as that film is to watch, like, you know, it's got some really brutal themes in it, but man, what a film. Like unreal.
There's just, I have to say, like the part where he's eating the octopus, it's just like
Yeah.
something about it. It's like
But it was real as
so
well.
violent and
Yeah.
so disturbing. Like, I don't know. I want to say it's a good choice, but you're going to be a little bit, sorry for the word, fucked up in your brain after watching
Yeah.
only Korean films for a month.
I'd pepper in some Pixar in that month, you know? I wouldn't
I don't know.
just
You're going to
go.
have to find some Korean Pixar.
But I just think they have amazing, amazing cinema, you know, and if you don't know what to watch, go make a Korean friend and ask them because they're also amazing people, you know?
Absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
that was a absolutely great answer. Okay, the last one, not the
All
least
right.
one.
All right.
Name a film, art piece, or installation. I know you're very eclectic. What would you recommend people put at the top of their list? And I have to say, this guy has good taste. So if
No,
he
don't say that.
recommends, you watch.
Don't say that.
100%.
For a film to watch or
Film, art piece, installation, something that you're like, just go watch these, everyone, because your brain is gonna be blown.
no, don't say that, Maria. Because Maria, you're more educated in the arts, I think, than me, you know?
Definitely not.
I think you
Definitely
are.
not.
I
I would
think
say
you've
I
seen.
am educated in art history, but film, I'm a little bit behind these days.
No, I don't know. Film, you know, I'll tell you some things to go look at that aren't really there right now, but you can Google it. Olafur Eliasson's weather project. Like, damn, God, Jesus Christ, like that. I didn't even get to see it in person, but
Hmm.
I felt it when I was like researching into it. It's the most amazing, one of the most amazing installations I've ever kind of looked into. And I
And
would
what's
look
so
at,
interesting about it? Tell us
man,
a
it's
little
just
bit, so like a little hint. So everyone is like, I'm gonna go look at Alison Weber's project.
if Roger Deakins, the famous cinematographer, did art, it would be that project. You know, it's an empty warehouse with this humongous sun-like sphere, the yellow sphere that just fills the room with this yellow warm light. And people are just sitting there
Amazing.
contemplating kind of how that makes them feel or you know, meditatively looking at themselves. And I think it's just insane. Look at
So
it.
it's like
Yeah.
a James Turrell kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, he just
Yeah.
plays with colors in the most simplest way to make you feel something very complex. I'd look at Harris Newcomb for a fun side. You probably haven't heard. I don't know if you heard of him. Harris Newcomb. He's an immigrant. Well, he's from immigration kind of background in England. An amazing photographer. Amazing photographer. His stuff is so vivid and it's not even that abstract. But it just blows my mind. And then film wise, I don't know, Maria. I have no idea. I'd say go watch just for the fact that it's cool is go watch Severance. if you haven't seen it.
Severance?
Severance, yeah.
I will. And I will actually drop the list in the comments or whatever the description so everyone can actually look at it, because if you recommend it, I'm watching it.
Severance, probably one of the best TV shows I've ever seen, I think. I'll put it that high. It blew my mind.
So, understanding that your time is limited, and so incredibly grateful for everything that you've shared with us from different perspectives, having open conversations. And I understand that a lot of the things we might talk about in here can be sensitive. I want to ask people that you please take things with a grain of salt, that at no point are we trying to be, to have difficult conversations in manners that are not careful. If you think that we did at any point, I am open to listening to comments, and we definitely love having these conversations between us and inviting you into these conversations so we can all profit and create more of a diverse environment for film and arts. So thank you very much, Rav, for having us today.
Thank you. Yeah. Everyone keep watching Maria's stuff. She's a great person. I'm excited to see how it goes. If I was looking around or it wasn't doing a good job, hey, it's my first time, but we'll do it again in the future, I'm sure. And thank you so much for having me, Maria. Yeah, it was cool. It
Thank
was
you
great to
so
catch up.
much.
Loved it.